This lampshade is printed with Antinsky Heavy Metal Silver Resin, but it's not silver. Well, I'll come back to that shortly. When Antinsky offered me the chance to review their heavy metal resin, I was curious to see whether metallic resin really does produce a metallic result. Having spent so much time focused on product design or making parts, this was an opportunity to do something different. And this resin, well, it really is different. When you pour it into the vat, you get the impression that prints will come out with a shiny, super metallic finish all over the print. But that's not how this resin works. And to be fair, Antinsky does make a point of that on their website, noting that only surfaces that are parallel to or facing down towards the LCD screen will take on the metallic finish. And I found that out fairly quickly when I printed up these small jewelry prototypes that I've been working on. I'd hoped they would turn out beautifully gold and silver, but that's not how this resin works. You can see here that the shapes are too varied, and it's hard to get all the faces pointing towards the screen during the print. The result is a kind of brown finish, and for these projects, you're better off using a more standard resin and then just simply painting the models with a silver metallic paint. Now, I tried that as well and I got much better results, and in fact, if you do want to print rings or wearables, then it's worth checking out resins specifically for that purpose. But if you do take something flat, like these exposure tests, then you can see that the metallic finish is strong and consistent. And by the way, the exposure time recommended for this resin is about 5 seconds or more, which seemed a lot to me. And after extensive testing, I actually found that I could get excellent results with this MonoX 6KS printer at about 1.8 seconds. And in the end, I increased it to 2.8 seconds because of the problems that I had with build plate adhesion. But look, in any case, 2.8 seconds is about half of what was specified, and just right to get really good detail. I guess that's why you do exposure tests, right? So then I designed this small round box with lots of intricate details. Here it is here. I then printed this vertically to try and expose the tops of all these rounded edges as flat as I could to the screen. Now I thought the tops of these little details would be shiny, but that's not how it turned out. I had more success with the base and the lid because I printed those on an angle which allowed better alignment to the LCD screen. Whatever is facing down takes on the sheen, but one of the problems is that any errors tend to show up quite easily. That said, I think this still looks, I actually think it still looks kind of okay if you're looking for something a bit earthy like an earthenware pot or something like that. Now you can see the same thing happening here with this Anycubic test print. The top of the print takes on this nice metallic sheen, but the lower surfaces don't. They kind of stay that brownish color. You can clearly see here that the resin can print very good detail. This test print came out very well, and it's important to understand the difference between the metallic finish and what might look like low detail. The same can be said of this small model, which I made especially for this test. The details are all there, but the sharpness of the print can sometimes be masked by or confused with the metallic particles in the resin. So then I tried something else. Instead of going for fine detail, I designed these organic forms to focus more on curves and smooth surfaces. Now I wasn't really sure what was going to happen here, but the result is actually really interesting. Yes, this one here does look kind of brown, but there is a bit of a shiny metallic finish on some of the edges and on some of the round sections which were a little bit flatter to the build plate. And after sanding off some of the supports, I also found myself wanting to spray the print with clear finish to see what result that would give me. As I was spraying it, I started to see the potential of this resin. Now this might only appeal to a very small number of people, but if you're creating more artistic prints where form, shape and sculpture are your thing, well then this resin might give you a more interesting result than maybe just a standard grey. So then I designed a couple of water jugs to experiment with this idea a little bit further. Now even though the silver comes out more like grey, you can actually see a slight metallic finish all through the resin. And I think that's actually a really interesting finish. I actually think this looks good. Now it's a bit difficult to clean the parts consistently, particularly on these smooth, wider edges here. And as soon as you start sanding, you take away that slight roughness of the metallic finish. But that's where I found myself wanting to spray this one again. And I think this is actually a good finish. Although it's not really what I'm used to. And if you're wondering about consistency over long prints, then take a look at this larger one. This jug took 17 hours. Yes, the resin will settle over time, but even for long prints, the result is still very consistent. And when I came back to this after thinking about it for a while, I started to see a side of resin printing that I wouldn't normally think about. I think there's real scope for producing more of the fine arts type of work with this kind of resin. It prints accurately with detail, but it has an element of imperfection about it at the same time, which I think gives it quite a unique quality. I also wondered how the resin would perform if I actually mixed it with a bit of colour. Well, the answer is it performs very well. This is a Miralab's TGM7 blue, and it mixes really well and takes on the metallic sheen. The advantage of adding TGM7 is that the print becomes slightly less prone to breakage because the metallic resin on its own it's kind of brittle. So, right, now, where was I? Whoa. And this large blue silver jug looks, well, mostly blue, but when you get right up close to it, you can see the subtle metallic sheen all through it. Now, like I said, if you're looking for something a bit different, this works. Then I created this model of a lampshade to test accuracy, form, detail, and colour all in one. This print worked flawlessly and was much easier to clean. The silver metallic sheen is very subtle throughout the print and adds a really nice detail to the overall form and colour. Even though this shape is, well, it's quite simple and the modelling isn't overly complex, I think the heavy metal resin really adds a special detail. I really like this design, and I've got a bunch of other ideas for simple lampshades like this one that I'll use this heavy metal resin for. So there you have it. It's not quite what I expected, but after experimenting with more sculptural designs, I can now see how this resin would be really good for, different types of creative work. And if you're looking for a resin that has a slightly earthy or rustic finish, or something that can add a bit of sparkle to a standard or coloured resin, then this could work very well for you. There's a link in the description if you'd like to know more about Antinsky Heavy Metal Resin and how to buy it. It's certainly been a journey for me to discover where this resin could be applied and what kinds of results you can expect. Now, if you found that useful, then like, comment and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.